Now on UK Health Radio, treat yourself to an upgrade. Pack away your low self-esteem. Leave behind that empty feeling. Stow your fears and doubts in the overhead locker. And go from stress to authentic success with Danielle Sachs.
Hello to you, beautiful you. This is another show, another week, and I am delighted to speak to you today, specifically because we are going to have a conversation with a Belgian colleague of mine, Mouton. And Jan has been a coach in organizations for about 23, 25 years. And he has been a body-oriented trauma therapist now for more than 10 years. And he has invested his entire life in personal development. Now, I met Jan last week live, and I can tell you that he's that type of person that I really wish there were more of in my life, in that way that he is such a honest person, highly sensitive, not scared to be his total self, vulnerable, honest, with a lot of experience in his own field, never scared to learn, never scared to develop himself more. So Jan, in his long search for healing from his own deep personal traumas, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, he discovered the body-oriented trauma therapy, and it changed him completely. Not just his view on how to help people, but himself, his own life, his own being. And so Jan has been trained in a wide range of body and spiritual therapies and became that trauma therapist in addition to being that coach. But it has become his life's mission to help people to dare to share their vulnerability. And that's why I'm saying he's a really great example. He shows us how to overcome our personal blocks and find power and love in our lives. And I'm sure he has helped hundreds, if not thousands of people regain their emotional freedom. And I really enjoy talking to all sorts of different people, but I'm really excited to talk to Jan today about mostly the trauma in the workspace, because as a business coach and facilitator, he brings awareness in organizations and helping people to become more energetic, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of things. So I really look forward to this conversation. What I wanted to say to you as well is that I am bringing out more and more articles on authenticity in the workspace, in our private lives. But I'm always really excited to talk about the workspace, because we cannot forget that we are most parts of our lives working. And when I say work, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a positive way. For me, my work is my hobby, my passion, my purpose. So I don't mean to say in a negative way, but often the workspace keeps people in contraction. And I would love to see workspaces where we can be ourselves, where we can be an expansion, express exactly who we are.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Welcome back to you wherever you are in the world. And as I said in the intro, this conversation is about two Belgians sharing their expertise and inspiring you out there regarding trauma, mostly trauma in the workspace. Welcome, Jan Mouton.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, Danielle. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
I'm delighted to have this conversation with you. And I feel honored, as I said in the introduction, I feel honored to be invited because I love to be invited.
I think we all love to be invited, to be honest. We all have that need to be recognized, to be seen, to be heard. So what I want to do with you in this conversation, Jan, is first of all, ask you that personal question about your personal story, because it is true that we all have a story, and that the man that you are today has been determined by that story. So can you tell us a little bit on what trauma has meant in your personal story?
I was born in an environment with huge emotional abuse.
Okay.
So in fact, I've grown up in an environment that was constantly unsafe. And let's say that it took me around 30 years to heal from that. And I have been myself in the classical therapeutic model, psychiatry, psychopharma medicines, antidepressants, etc., which helped me to stabilize my state. So I always was able to work and to help people and do my job, but I was not really good. And it's only when someone told me to do some what she called emotional body work that finally I could express all the pain that I was carrying inside me. And for the first time and now I'm 60 years old, so I'm a late bloomer due to my story. And only, I think I was in the end of my 40s, for the first time, I could express physically also what I had inside me. And this has completely changed my life. That finally I could express what was stuck inside me. So,
Can you Jan, I think it's maybe important, if possible, I'm just asking, can you share like one particular moment of emotional abuse, or one past scene that you can still remember today that has really affected you? Or was it the chronic, constant alertness of feeling unsafe?
That's a good question, because we need to make a distinction if we talk about trauma, about a particular event, or chronic, being chronically in an unsafe situation.
Yes.
My case was being chronically in an unsafe situation. Okay. And one of my parents was a narcissistic person.
Yes.
And I constantly had to adapt to the behavior of that person, which was also a gift in some way, because now I'm very, very sensitive. That's the positive side of it. Yes. Very sensitive to what's going on with other people. But there is a risk that if someone is in bad mood, that I immediately personalize it and think, whoa, it's maybe me. That's one of the things that has happened in my childhood, that I thought that I was responsible for the mood.
Yes, I agree.
One of my caretakers. And that had a huge effect on me until now. I can say, okay, it's your expression of your mood. I'm me, you're you, fine. But that's one of the, I like a chronic exposure to, and this is a kind of emotional abuse, that a child is not free to be what he wants, but has constantly to adapt to the expectations of an unpredictable adult. And unpredictability is a kind of unsafety.
Yeah, because the child, we all know that certainly the first 7, 8, 10 years of their life, a child has no conscious mind. So they cannot reason about why the adult is behaving that way, why the adult is shouting at him, why. So they take it inside on them. So, and are you saying, because I want to talk about that, are you saying that most trauma like that, chronic trauma, is settling in the body, in the cells?
Oh, yes, absolutely. What happens it would take a long time to explain it scientifically, but basically what happens is a child is prohibited to express him or herself or to defend him or herself. And a child is stuck in the family, can't run away, is not allowed to fight against a parent. So in fact, what happens is that energy is stuck in the body.
Okay.
And
like a freeze? Is that the freeze response?
Yes,
or is
it's
it
a kind, you could call that the freeze. And until that freeze state is released, good chance that you're stuck in your body. Wilhelm Reich called that the armor, that we are in a kind of an armor. If you're in an armor physically, you're in an armor emotionally, and your thinking is also under tension.
Yes.
That's why the approach, not only top down, that means
starting in the head, like
talking,
the
therapy, which
the
is
mental
not bad,
approach.
but it's not the only thing we need. We also need to access the stuck energy in the body.
I agree.
And that's why different kind of body-oriented approaches in therapy are so effective. And that's also why it is important that we learn also leaders. I also learn leaders to be present in their body and feel what happens with me and do something with it.
So what is the effect? Because when you talk about leaders, Jan, we're talking already about adult life. So what is the effect? Let's just talk first about maybe even in daily life. What is the effect of and we talk about your specific situation, like a chronically feeling of being unsafe and constantly being alert in that. What impact does that have still on an adult?
I think the most important thing is that we live in a kind of a survival mode.
Okay.
So we have been, our basic needs somewhere has been hurt.
Yes.
And in order to deal with that, we build survival strategies, which is as such as a child, a healthy thing. Like, for instance, I learned to shut down.
Yes.
I learned to say yes to what my parents ask from me, because if I say no, or if I do my own thing, I'm punished.
Yes.
So if I want my parents love me, I should obey. And then that becomes like a kind of a survival strategy. Like, if I want the love from people, I should say yes to them. And then you become a
please
kind of
them. You become the pleaser.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You become a kind of a pleaser. And then in your adult life, you keep doing this. And that's over and over again what I see, that people keep applying their survival strategies.
Yes.
And in fact are not really connected to their real power. And especially in our world, which, as you know, is a challenging environment, people are in a kind of a survival mode. And by accessing and liberating the body, they have again access to their real natural power. That's the thing. They are somewhere disconnected from their natural power. And the thing is, how can we help people to reconnect with themselves and also reconnect with other people? Because somewhere, and I would even say, the love is interrupted.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of adult people, even those that I have here in my practice, and probably those you have in your practice, are battling with self-love, self-esteem, self-image, worthiness, self-worth, all these things because of that. Because of that disconnection.
Or are blowing themselves up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, some people are like, whoa, I am this and I'm that, but deep inside, they are a hurt child. That's another strategy, like blowing yourself up or not allowing emotions.
Yes.
I have people here, often managers, by the way, and they are like rocks. And they say, I don't feel anything, which is in some way an advantage as a leader because they're solid. But on the other hand, there is a kind of lack of empathy, and they have learned as a child, showing your emotions is not a good thing.
But that can't be good for the body, Jan. I mean, that must trigger like diseases or symptoms, or what about that?
It's maybe a bit exaggerated to say, but in my opinion, 70% of the illnesses are psychosomatic illnesses.
Yes.
And people who walk around with chronic tension in their body, one day or another, they will develop issues. So if we talk about burnout, chronic fatigue syndrome,
immune problems,
muscle problems, etc., and then I still don't talk about severe illnesses. One day or another, you will have problems if you don't release the tensions you're walking around with.
Wow.
If you want to stay healthy, I can give you one advice. Please try to connect head, heart, body with any kind of, there's a lot of
strategies, techniques,
yoga, meditation, dance, anything. Please be present in your body. Listen to your body. That's the most important thing I can advise, because I myself was for a long time, I'm a master in philosophy. So I was thinking. I was thinking, well, maybe by thinking I can understand.
Turn it around, and I can turn it around, but
no. And it's only when I discovered that I had to listen to my body that finally I found myself back.
So is that what it has done to you, body work, that you could reconnect with yourself?
That turned my world upside down, really.
So what age were you when that happened, when you've done that?
I was 49.
Wow.
Only 49.
So that's only like 10, 11 years ago.
And I went to a retreat where we did 1 week breathwork.
Yes.
And I screamed the whole room together. My God. They said to me, calm down, Jan, calm down. Calm down. But after 1 week, I felt like, my God.
It's like a rebirth?
It's not. Yeah, it's a kind of rebirth technique, but it's not really rebirth. It's just breathing and allowing the body to express what it has to express. And finally, I could express the pain I had inside me, and this made me, because I'm today, I am also a body worker and a facilitator, because I'm so convinced that this is useful, that I feel like I absolutely should offer this also to other people. I'm an expert in trauma. Of course, I did a lot of trainings, but also because I know what it is.
Yes. Also an advantage, a huge advantage.
I know the whole shit.
Yeah.
And people come to me and I know where they're talking about. And I know the suffering. And I know that there is an issue, an exit.
Yeah. So there is a solution or an way out.
Anyway, and it takes time, and you're suffering, and you do a lot of stuff, but in the end, you can get out of it. This is very important that people hear this.
So,
and that you're not alone. Many people, traumatized people, think that they are alone. And the first thing you should do is talk about it. Having the guts to share what has happened to you and stepping over the shame.
That's being vulnerable. Hey, like really open up, because that opens up the wound already energetically. I'm sure that makes a difference. So let's go back to the topic of this conversation, because that's one of your specialties is, how to deal with trauma in the workspace. Tell me something about that. How did you come to, to do that work in the workspace, and And what is your first step or first things that you do with people in the workspace?
There are many questions in one question. Basically, I was a coach, so I did a lot of coaching, management coaching, communication skills, leadership development stuff in the more classic way.
Yes.
And at some point, because that corresponded also with my own attitude in life, if you want. And then I went through the bodywork experience and I studied trauma. And then I started combining
beautiful.
both. Yes. And so if we work with leaders today, we work with what are your patterns? What can you do to be not so much reactive, but more responsive? Reactive means in your survival mode.
Yes.
Defensive. What can you do to relax your body, to be present, to be open, to embody inclusiveness? And how does that work? Not by talking about it, but by doing it. People believe what they sense. I mean, if I talk with you, I feel safe if your nerve system is in balance and you have an impact on my nerve system, and I also come into balance, and then there is safety, and then we can go in flow together, independent from your words.
Yes.
Because I believe what I feel, not so much the words you talk.
Okay.
And it's very important for a leader to be able to what we call auto-regulate.
Yes.
To be able to mostly by centering exercises, physical exercises, to be present with yourself. That means being able to regulate your mood, and then to be also able to what we call co-regulate. If people are under tension, to calm them down and create a safe environment where people can do and can do what is intended to do and be in their power.
Yes.
So it's about, of course, it's about creating safety, but it's also about effectiveness. If people are stuck or are afraid or are in kind of whatever survival strategy, they are simply less productive. So if you want to have a productive workspace, first of all, you need to have a safe place. For me, the first task of a leader is to create safety.
Wow.
And that you avoid activating the nerve system of other people.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful because, I mean, it's also about self-leadership. First, I hear you say first regulating yourself, self-regulating. So it's about self-leadership and self-responsibility. I always love, Jan, the word, and whoever, if you are listening out there, this word for me is really important. Taking responsibility, the ability to respond. You were talking, instead of being reactive, being responsive, having the ability to respond. Isn't that a beautiful, I love that, because that has to do with trauma management.
And for me, this is the basic skill a leader needs to have. I've been, and sometimes I'm still asked to do it, but I don't believe so much in training leadership skills.
Okay.
If you train leadership skills on a unhealthy basis, it doesn't really work. But if you help people, leaders, and also in general people, to be present with themselves, to auto-regulate, then I would nearly say automatically they become good leaders because their empathy grows, their sensitivity grows, their openness also to detect
the intuition.
Intuition, what's going on, also business-wise.
Yes.
See? It's only you're a good leader, not only when you're a good manager and able to make good spreadsheets. It's okay. You need to make spreadsheets. You need to manage costs, blah, 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 for sure. but there is so much more information that is useful if you're open to it, and you're only open to it if you're present in your body. Otherwise, you're like a walking head. And I see many leaders walking heads and really not present with themselves.
Can you give us one exercise that anyone can do listening, anyone can do at this moment, something to be present, so to go inside? Is there one little thing you can tell us?
There is 30-second exercise you can do at any moment, and that is, first of all, become aware, how do I feel right now at this very moment? And observe what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind, where do my thoughts go? And most of the time, also myself, by the way, I feel like I'm a bit tense. I'm thinking about all the things that go wrong, disaster thinking, blah, 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 blah. And you're aware of it. And then you take some deep breaths and you relax your body, your muscles.
What is for you a deep breath? Just explain to us, because I think with your breathing work, it's quite important. What is taking a good breath?
Taking a lot of oxygen into your body and in and out in a relaxed way. And at the same time, you relax your muscles, your face, the wrinkles on your head, your face, your shoulders. And you do that, Danielle, for 10 seconds.
Just the breathing.
The breathing, relaxing your muscles, and maybe it helps that you say to yourself, I let go. I let go. Or I think about something that is important in my life, something nice, and I let go. I'm just aware. It's like applied mindfulness. It's not mindfulness, but it's a mindfulness in action.
Yes.
And you relax and you say, I let go. And I guarantee you should try it. I guarantee you see the situation differently than you saw it when you did not. Because if you're tense in your body, you see the world like a dangerous place. If you're relaxed in your body, you're just present. And then you see the world doesn't change. Main challenges remain challenges, but you can deal with them using all the parts of your brain instead of being in a kind of survival mode. It's a whole difference. Are you in survival mode, also in a leader, or as a leader, or are you present? And the world remains the same. The challenges remain, competition remains the same. I mean, it's a challenging world, but the thing is, are you present?
And so what I love about your work is that so many people will recognize this, that most of us in this society are living in their head. Be honest. Most of us are living, even myself, sometimes I'm still living in my head. And so that just one exercise to bring you in your body and breathe is already, turning that situation, is already breaking out of that vicious cycle. And I want to say to anyone listening, I went for a session with Jan, last week, and because I wanted to try it out and see what it meant. And it is so essential to know that the going into your body and really going to feel what's in there, releasing all that tension, I must admit that it really makes a difference immediately. Immediately it makes a difference. So what would you say to any leader, any manager, any parent listening? Because you can be a leader just by being, a parent. What would you say to them to start doing that work? Is that one of the things, the exercise, the breathing exercise? How would you encourage them to start doing the self-regulation?
You can do this on a therapeutic level, which I did with you. I did kind of a therapeutic session, but you can do that on different levels. You can do that just in a daily practice also. Last week, I had a manager. She's very, very high level. but she's so in her mind. She's so restless. And I said to her, please, 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 from time to time, stop. Try to stop. Just stop. For 5 minutes, you stop. Because she's like, chick, 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 chick. And she has an anxiety problem. And
Of course.
she's not convinced of her own value, while in fact she's a very, very talented person. But because she's so restless and she's never present with herself. And I said, please, 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 stop, breathe, and take from time to time some time to resource yourself. Go walking with your dog.
Yes, for
In
example.
nature. Go walking with your children. You know, just
calm down.
And the one thing is that in the rat race, that from time to time you stop to process, to reflect, to relax your body, and then you go on. The most interesting space and the most creative space is not so much in the thinking and in the words, but in the silence. Also for managers, silence can be very productive. It's in the silence that sometimes come the most interesting
productive thing.
And we run and we run and we run because we think if we run and if we go fast, we are productive. No.
Yeah.
So that's my first thing. Calm down, calm down. Even though you think you need to.
So many of us breathe superficially. Hey? So how would you advise someone to breathe properly? Because isn't that an important part of it all? To breathe properly?
Not breathing is not feeling. Very simple.
Oh, that's beautiful. Not breathing is not feeling.
And people don't breathe because sometimes they don't want to feel. There are some maybe uncomfortable things they don't want to feel. And that's why some more therapeutic breathwork is useful. Okay. But in general, if you're tense, it's not so difficult. Preferably you breathe through your mouth because then you have most energy and you just breathe in and breathe out profoundly. And maybe you sigh and say, And maybe all of a sudden you feel how tired you are. Maybe you start feeling you're hungry. Whatever, you listen finally to your body. And in fact, our autonomous nerve system drives our heart rate, our digestion, etc. And we can't influence it. The only thing in your autonomous nerve system that you can influence is the breathing. That's why the breathing has an impact on the functioning of your autonomous nerve system. And the thing is, it's not about breathing technique. It's not about the right way to breathe. No, it's just about in and out, and you let go. And you let go the tension. Wow. So amazing. Wonderful. It's so simple.
So what is the response of your leaders once they have done this kind of work with you? What is there some remarks or some results or something that you can share on how they feel and how does it better them in their leadership?
Oh, many, many effects. They are more able to take position. Leadership is about taking position. They feel more comfortable to be in front of a group.
Oh, yes.
They are more able to really listen to people. They develop empathy. And also they feel more comfortable with themselves, which is maybe most important, that you feel comfortable with yourself. Not tightening up all the time. It's about self-awareness, and it's like embodied self-awareness, and then you have lots of benefits.
And so it's all about, if I hear well, it's all about self-regulation, is it? And then, like you said, the co-regulation. Once you can do the self-regulation, you are able to help others feel safe and feel that they can show their vulnerability and their
And then you're present. Then you develop the capacity to what we call authentic conversations, like really listening to people, observing what's going on. What are the non-verbal signs?
Signs,
and just be with that. And then you have authentic conversations also around business topics. I mean, people feel uncomfortable. They are lying, except if you create a safe environment and you allow people to say whatever that concerns them. And telling the truth is very important in business. Of course. We don't need to lie to each other. We don't need to play games. It's too important. And if I'm triggered, if I'm restless, if I'm anxious about something, it's better that you know it, and then we can deal with it. No big deal. But people hide, they play games, whatever, and it's just losing our time. I've one company where they really work on that, and once I was in a business meeting, my God, that was like in 10 minutes, they take decisions and they just share. I don't feel comfortable with Jack. They're very honest with each other. Bam, hugely effective, no games. And everybody feels safe to share whatever they want to share. No ego stuff. Because the higher you go in companies, there's so much ego stuff. That means losing our time.
I am so happy that you say that, because this is why I wanted to invite you, because what we're talking about now is absolutely from stress to authentic success. You have used the word authenticity. Once we can be authentic, success is naturally, it's whatever you want to be, whether it's the best leader, the best parent, a house in Bali, whatever, it will come to you, because being authentic and being present in your own self and expressing yourself in alignment with who you are is absolutely stunning. So let me just ask you that question because time runs fast. Jan, what is authentic success to you in your life? Are you living authentic success? Because you are doing, from your experience of trauma, from everything you've been through, that's become your purpose, your mission. Is that for you living authentic success?
For me personally, yes.
Okay.
I feel like I'm not working.
Oh, it's a beautiful feeling, isn't it?
I'm 60 years old, and I mean, I can go on forever.
Yes.
Of course, sometimes I'm tired, etc. But the dream is that you can live what you stand for.
I'm going to write that down. That's
I know that you can live where you stand for, and that you can, like, how would I say, surf.
Yeah.
On
the waves.
On the waves. I mean,
of life.
Maybe it sounds a bit fuzzy, but be open what universe offers you if you know what you want. And then I often say to my clients, if you're open and you're humble and you work with yourself, universe will help you.
Always. It listens. It listens every single day.
Whatever you do. If you want to be a good cook, I know a guy, he's an Ayurvedic cook, and he does that wonderful. And if you shine into the world, you will have success.
That's true. So I'm so happy. Thank you for that, because maybe is there one word or one quote that you want to close this conversation with? Something that you stand for? Is it that surf on the waves of life, or, what is your last word in this conversation? Your last quote?
I have different one. Well, one I use a lot these days is, nothing seems what it looks like. Nothing is what it looks like.
Nothing is what it looks like. Wow.
Don't be trapped into
your troubled vision of what things are, and in your perception.
And if you're afraid about people or whatever, nothing is what it looks like.
Okay. Let's
And
finish with that one, because, and I want to thank you for really illustrating why your work is so important if you want to go from stress to authentic success. I mean, really, thank you, Jan, for everything you do. And I'm going to just play a little music. Thank you for the conversation, and I'll come back just now.
thank you very much, Danielle. It was nice to meet you.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Thank you for listening in again. And I really believe that this was such a beautiful conversation around how important it is that we feel safe in the workspace, that we feel that we can just express our own selves. And I trust that you heard the story of Jan's experience with emotional abuse in his childhood years, and how that has affected him for so long. It wasn't until he started to do the real body work that he could release it, the emotional body work that allowed him to express the pain, the trauma, what he had inside of him, and what was really stuck. And if you experience, and if you realize now after this conversation that you have experienced certain trauma in your life. I experienced the loss of my little brother when I was 5.5. He died of cot death. And I worked a lot mentally, emotionally, and physically in my body to get rid of that pain, of that stuckness, because trauma does something. Trauma for children, we underestimate it, whether it's a little T or a big T trauma. As Jan was explaining in his experience, the unpredictability in his life was making him alert almost on a continuous basis. The constant alertness of that feeling unsafe, that chronic exposure, really, he felt that until almost in his 50s, like his late 40s, because every time it triggered him. And we have to take that into account when we are in relationship with others. As I often said with the book of Oprah Winfrey, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And so children take it in themselves. They take it in their bodies. They cannot defend themselves, so that energy stays stuck into the body as an armor. And of course, we all have our own survival strategies. And here's my question to you. What is your survival strategy? How do you cope? Jan is coping by shutting down. He was coping by shutting down because he changed it. He was always saying yes, always pleasing, always obeying. And I can recognize myself in that because I did that too. I was the highly sensitive one who always tried to help, please, and save others. And so there's nothing more important than to go and do emotional, mental, and physical work on that. So if you recognize yourself in this, please, I trust that we have encouraged you to take that first step to reconnect with yourself, to start to self-regulate, whether you are a leader or not. We were talking about trauma in the workspace, but it can be as much in any circumstance. It doesn't have to be in the workspace, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your personal life with friends, wherever you are, whether you are a teacher, a counselor, a lawyer, a leader in an organization. Just realize that we need to go more in from the head, the heart, and the body connection. Listen to your body. Start to self-regulate by being present with yourself so you can co-regulate with others. I think that's one of the most important things that I took from this conversation. That is our first task. Whether we are a parent, a leader in our family, it is important to create safety so that the nervous system of our children or our partners or our friends or our coworkers or our whole team is not triggered. We need to take that responsibility of being present. And I really love the exercise. If you want to go and listen to it again, the 30-second exercise of letting go, how to stop the rat race and go into silence. And just to let you know that, again, as I always say, this is a process and a practice, a daily practice of conscious self-care. And I love the expression that Jan was saying about not breathing is not feeling. I so agree with this, because when I had my COVID in 2021 and I was in hospital for 5 days, I couldn't breathe and I was there with oxygen. That's when you realize how breathing is important. And for me, it has made a big difference because I focus more on my abdominal breathing more than ever. And I used to be a physiotherapist, so believe me, I know exactly what breathing does. But still, even I can learn. We are all a work in progress. So from my heart to yours, I trust that you enjoyed this conversation, that you have gotten something out of it, and that you can practice for yourself something this week. If you need any help, you can contact Jan, you can contact me at danielle@daniellesucks.com, and of course I will be there to listen to your situation and help you with your best next step. Bye-bye for now, and I'll talk to you next week.
From Stress to Authentic Success was presented by Danielle Sachs. Join Danielle at the same time next week here on UK Health Radio. And meanwhile, for more on how to thrive in business and everyday life by being true to yourself, go to daniellesachs.com.